lastly, we have our field goal ratio of offense as a factor of defense. So the way that
Just to clarify, we actually didn't ask this question, but this is one that we added in through the study of ours because we realized this might be significant because we were just looking at how things were. We had the adjusted offensive efficiency and the adjusted defensive efficiency. And we know that a combination of those is what makes a good team because you can't be all offense or all defense. But over studying it, we decided we'd also like to take a look at this and see how this ranks up against the other measures.
Mhm. And so what you see here is essentially any number over one on our x-axis, you can see in the chart, is a team that focuses more on its offensive efficiency, or at least its higher adjusted offensive efficiency more than its defensive, and the opposite for under one, as it's a ratio of offensive over defense. And we can see here that our national champions have all been over one for their ratio. So which means that as a predictor, it means that adjusted offensive efficiency and its high R squared is kind of being further proved by this.
All right. So right here, this is our dashboard we created for the top two predictors of national champion. So our top one ended up being the power rating as a predictor of national champion with an R squared of 0.336. However, right below it is adjusted offensive efficiency with the R squared of 0.331. That's very close. So both of these are super significant. They were the top two in correlation with predicting the national champion. And I'll explore these later whenever we jump into our actual Tableau presentation.
And then we have our worst predictors for national champion. And as you saw, our field goal percentage is by far the worst with a R squared of 0.12. It still is a great R squared to receive, but nonetheless, compared to any of the other ones we had, it's pretty horrible. And then next we have our adjusted defensive efficiency, which is 0.267, still great, but not as great as the others. Others are better predictors, so you shouldn't analyze these as much. These were the measures. These measures were the bottom two in correlation with predicting national champion. And
Okay, so who would use this data? So what reason did we analyze this data? That's the question we're going at to answer. And really, a lot of people could use this in different ways. So first off, schools, recruiters, any sort of recruiter can use this data to scout the right kind of player for a team that has the right statistics. They can look at teams and see how they're performing offensively and decide if they need a more offensive geared player or maybe a more defensive geared player. So they can use these kind of data points just to see where the team is at. But the main one is sports analytics, fans, coaches, anybody who has a stake in predicting the outcome of the NCAA tournament. These people may even bet on the games for financial gain, and they need to increase the areas where metrics are the lowest for a team in important predictor categories, which we laid out through this, just some of the most common ones. And obviously, the NCAA is surrounded by a lot of money going into it. A lot of money goes into these programs. So it's important that teams are performing up to par and people care about it a lot. And number four, sports betting is a huge part of the entertainment industry around sports. It's only continuing to grow as it's legalized in states. And these predictors are very important to them. And I know many sports bettors personally take this into account. And it would be nice to know which one is the most effective, especially towards the NCAA tournament, because that's such a crazy event and upsets are going to happen no matter what. But at least through this, you can know which measure to put the most weight in.
next, we're going to move on to the Tableau.
Perfect.
So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and have Trenton share his screen.
Looks like it signed me out, but let me get back in. All right. So here we have the win percentage. And this is just something that we plotted to start out just to get a baseline measure of which teams were performing the best over this time period. And as you can see, Gonzaga has a win percentage of 87%, but we're going to see throughout this presentation that actually they're not the one who is winning the national champion through this time period like some of the other teams are. So here's the first one we asked. This is win percent as a predictor of national champions. So we've already been over this one, so I won't spend too much time getting into the equation or anything like that. But very significant R squared we found. But on the right, I wanted to demonstrate. So you can filter by any conference at all. So, for example, if you just want to look at the ACC results between 2013 and 2021, you'll see that these top lines are the ones of the teams who won the national champion. So you have Virginia in 2019, Duke in 2015, and UNC in 2017. But you can filter for all of these. For example, if you wanted to see this, maybe not in the context of the NCAA tournament, but maybe more for regular season to make predictions, you could filter by conference whenever conference play is going on and use this. You can also just individually select a team. So you look at Arizona right there. You can just filter for any team you want, any combination of them, which could be helpful for some people. Moving on.
And through time, you can upload, future years and their data, and you can essentially keep this up to date and use this for, current season predictions.
So here we have adjusted offensive efficiency. So this is definitely one of the more correlated ones. We found through our dashboard that this was the second highest rated one in R squared, but this is very similar to the last one, so I won't go into detail on the filters we put in, but moving on. Here's the adjusted defensive efficiency that we showed earlier. Yeah, let's see. Power rating. Here's our field goal percentage as a predictor. This was the one that was the worst at a 0.127, which is still significant, but not correlated like the others were.
So the very small p-value as well. All these had p-values less than 0.0001.
And here's the last one, the one that we decided to add in after we made our proposal, but the field goal ratio, which is relatively significant, just didn't rank in our top two. But moving on. Here are the top teams that we found. So this is our dashboard, the first one we created. And this is the one comparing power rating with adjusted offensive efficiency. So these were the top two, of course. And for each of these individual circles on here, you can look at it with the tool tab. It's the tournament performance, the power rating, year, and the team. But anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, and the teams that just so we can show for our our highest, I guess, most significant factor, the teams that also had the highest in this would be Villanova, Louisville, North Carolina. You can go through Connecticut and so on. So, you can know which teams are really doing well based off of our highest level predictor, which are those following teams.
Definitely.
And then the last thing we have is our second dashboard, which we've shown as well, which is that worst predictor of national champion, which of course is field goal percentage by far, and adjusted defensive efficiency, but not so much. Field goal percentage really is surprisingly not that beneficial to us when comparing to any of the other ones. It could honestly be thrown out of the calculations as significant to, I guess, where you place your bets.
Definitely. I would not use that one as a predictor, but it might be fun for someone later on in the regular season potentially to use the field goal percentage, maybe just per conference, and compare teams and how they're performing on that in that measure. But at least as far as it goes for predicting the national champion, it's not very effective. But sure thing.
And lastly, we just want to say thank you for watching this presentation. And if you have any questions, please email us. We'd be happy to reply and engage in a dialogue.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to send you the file if you're interested or anything else. But thank you for your time. I know this went on a little bit longer, but we've enjoyed presenting to y'all.
Oh, there's a pause share thing up there. I get this up on my computer.
This is gonna be long. 19 minutes. She said it was okay if you went over 15.
I said stop